Well, Canadian space research is in the spotlight this week as St. Mary's University in Halifax hosts an event featuring our guest this evening, astronomer J.J. Kavelaars. J.J. works at the Canadian Astronomy Data Centre within the National Research Council and is considered an expert in solar system science. I want to thank you so much for coming in tonight. Really appreciate it.
Great to be here. Thanks.
I want to talk first about, the news today. We heard that a good part of the country may kind of catch a glimpse of the northern lights. Everybody's talking about northern lights.
Yeah, it gets pretty exciting. I mean, there was a large solar flare a couple days ago, and that's ejects particles from the sun. They've been traveling through space. They're going to hit the Earth sometime today. They're hitting the Earth right now, I guess. And in the night, you should be able to see some interaction between those particles and the Earth's magnetic field.
What causes them to glow? Why do they?
So that's ionization processes of those particles hitting the upper atmosphere of the Earth and ionizing our atmosphere, and we're seeing that as light. And so what you're seeing is the dancing and the glowing. That's the magnetic fields and the upper atmosphere interacting and that energy being deposited. It's pretty spectacular to see if you've ever seen it. And unfortunately, it does need to be pretty clear. You can't see it on a cloudy night. So if it's cloudy at all, you're not going to have much luck. But maybe tonight it's clear and you might see something.
We've often heard warnings about severe solar storms and how they can impact our infrastructure here on Earth. I guess we've seen that. Yeah.
Well, there was a shocking event many years ago that knocked out a fair chunk of the Quebec hydro grid. But there's a lot of lessons learned from that. This one, there was a bit of intensity that came off with the initial eruption, and there was some worry that this might cause some disruption of GPS satellites, but that doesn't seem to have occurred. So
fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about your work and how Canadians play a role in the exploration of our solar system. You participated in New Horizons, the celebrated New Horizons project. It kind of made Pluto a household discussion, kind of right around the world.
It was
Tell us
fantastic.
about that.
So the mission, New Horizons mission, was to go out and explore the outer solar system, to see what Pluto really looked like, and then to go beyond Pluto and look at what's called the Kuiper Belt beyond Pluto.
Right.
And the approach to Pluto was just transformative in our kind of perspective on that object. People had thought of it, as a rock in space. When we got there, the first images showed this massive glacier of nitrogen on the surface of Pluto, these active processes going on, very much planetary type processes. There's a community of people who still think of Pluto as a planet.
Of course, yeah.
And we just saw those amazing processes happening. And then with the cratering on the surface of Charon, Pluto's moon, gave hints about what was going on with the material in the outer solar system, the very chaotic and collisional environment out there.
What are the possibilities, do you think, for future missions, like New Horizons?
Well, so there's a plan right now to try to send a mission either to Uranus or Neptune. Those are the two that are on the wish list, basically, of the planetary science community. The hope is to have them to be orbiter missions where they would get into orbit around the planet and explore that planet's atmosphere. Those two planets have atmospheres that are smaller than Saturn and Jupiter, and there's a little bit to learn about what's going on those planets by exploring them more carefully.
Would Canada play a role in any of this, do you think?
So the Canadian Space Agency is a real good partner with NASA and with ESA and with JAXA and with the Indian ISRO. We really partner, that's our thing. We find missions that the Canadian science community is interested in, and the Canadian Space Agency finds a role for Canadian industry in those missions, and we participate in them. On the New Horizons mission, the navigation system was run by a company out of Montreal.
Wow.
They did the stellar navigation for New Horizons, and then when the actual encounter happened, we used a Canadian telescope on Hawaii to survey the area the spacecraft was going to be flying through to ensure there were no hazards.
Nothing more important than navigation, I guess, when you're flying to Pluto. All right, let's talk about asteroids. We're told that, that most of them that come our way come from other planetary systems. So what can we learn from them, and how can we find more of them?
So the asteroids that come close to the Earth, near-Earth objects, near-Earth asteroids, most of those are being perturbed out of the disk of material that's around the sun called the asteroid belt. Okay. There's a really complex dynamical process that pushes those objects out of that area and makes them come in close and perhaps hit the Earth, but nothing is currently it doesn't look like anything's going to hit the Earth in the near future. But there is occasionally, though, an object that comes from interstellar space. So these are asteroidal-like objects that travel through the galaxy, and at any one time there are thousands and thousands of these interstellar objects in our solar system just kind of traversing through.
Right.
And as they traverse through, we usually don't see them because they're dark and they're far away, but a couple recently have gotten quite close to the Earth, close being a few 100 million miles, but close enough that we could see them.
Cause for concern, for sure. Just in the 20 seconds I have left, I have to ask you about Planet 10. We keep seeing this online. You know, we think we know the solar system, and yet there's all this talk about Planet 10.
You know, it's almost certain that more planets formed in our solar system than we know of today.
Oh, yeah?
And where those planets are now, whether they escaped from the sun or are currently still orbiting around it, we do not know.
We'll have to leave it there.
Okay.
On the mystery, the cliffhanger. JJ, thanks for coming in. JJ Kavelaars works at the Canadian Astronomy Data Centre within the National Research Council. St. Mary's hosting a free event tomorrow at the McNally Auditorium that starts at 7 o'clock, featuring JJ. You should check it out. Stay with us. We'll be right back.